Hello, everyone. My name is Ameerah Bokhari. I'm a research scientist at Saudi Aramco. I have a background in microbiology and bioscience. Today, I'll present a number of transformative technologies for CO2 capture and conversion in algal cultivation, and I'll be highlighting on their opportunities for oil and gas operations. So as we all know that research efforts in carbon capture, utilization, and sequestration, or CCUS technologies, have been growing for decades, targeting advanced and reliable solutions to capture carbon from industrial emissions, to either using it to make chemicals or storing it underground. However, the current technologies are still not sufficient enough to reduce CO2 emissions to achieve the 40% reduction by 2030. So we still need many solutions combined, old and new technologies or strategies to reach to that goal. So nature-based solutions such as solar energy and solar, wind, or microalgae are among the top renewables technologies for CCUS with a promising sustainability impact that can tackle the global CO2 emissions challenges. And for oil and gas companies, the CO2 Enhanced Oil Recovery, or CO2 EOR, is among the top sustainability projects that showed promising results addressing this issue as well. This technology includes carbon capture and sequestration of waste CO2 from large sources such as power plants, storing and depositing it underground in the geological formations or in the reservoir, which helps maintaining the pressure in the reservoir and recovering more oil. This technology, the CO2 EOR, has shown promising increase in the oil production rates since 2015. However, it's still not optimum because of the less density and viscosity of CO2 compared to water and oil. Therefore, when we inject CO2 to recover oil, it rises to the top layers and finger through the reservoir, leading to missing a measurable pore volume of the reservoir unswept and early breakthrough of CO2. Also, to resolve these limitations of CO2 EOR, oil and gas companies started to invest in several other CCUS nature-based technologies such as microalgae biotechnology, which will be the main focus of my presentation today. So first of all, why microalgae? Well, microalgae CO2 capture and conversion system, or microalgae photosynthesis, is an ancient, well-known, and among the most efficient and promising CO2 sequestration processes. It addresses the three global challenges, such as climate change, energy demand, and food security. Moreover, this technology has shown great potential in oil yield and CO2 sequestration and utilization compared to terrestrial plants and other microorganisms. Not to mention that microalgae have rapid growth rates, high photosynthesis efficiencies, and versatile metabolic capabilities that make them able to grow anywhere in harsh conditions on large scales. Also, microalgae have shown great potential to produce high-value commodities for several industrial applications with minimal nutrient requirements. And that is why a microalgae project is one of the corporate initiatives towards sustainability. So the Environmental Protection, or EP, at Saudi Aramco has launched the Green Energy Program, which includes the algal cultivation project as one of the main pillars. They are currently constructing 6 open ponds jointly with the Seawater Injection Department to grow local microalgae strains that can withstand harsh conditions and abiotic stresses. And this scheme shows one of the objectives of the EP's algal cultivation plan to support oil and gas upstream applications in CO2 sequestration by utilizing microalgae capabilities to produce high-value commodities from wastes, mainly CO2 and wastewater, which can be used for upstream applications such as oil-based mud, hydrofracking fluids, and EOR agents. In addition, the produced biomass can be utilized for other non-oil and gas applications such as animal feeds and oil and soil fertilizers. However, the algal cultivation technology still suffers some challenges or limitations, such as the low CO2 utilization in open ponds, the contamination and declining photosynthesis efficiency. In addition, other challenges, including the high yield and scale-up stability for the bioproducts and harvesting energy costs. All these represent major economic challenges for the algal biomass systems. And that is why novel advanced materials offer new approaches to address these challenges. And in this presentation, I will highlight on a number of them, capitalizing on their advantages to address the cultivation challenges. There are so many advancements in the transformative approaches that utilize novel materials to overcome algal cultivation challenges. And I will highlight a number of them as an example. Some research groups identified MUFs and ZIF to separate and store CO2. So this approach utilizes these robust porous compounds as they have high CO2 absorption capacity and large accessible pore volume to separate and store gases, in addition to their high stability at high temperature and strong solvent conditions, which makes them highly suitable for industrial applications. However, the drawbacks of this approach are the complicated synthesis process, the expensive raw materials, and unclear release mechanism. Other research groups identified other interesting large-scale CO2 capture approach, which is called the synthetic trees. This approach utilizes basic ion exchange resin as sorbents to extract CO2 from wind-driven devices. The outcome of this approach is bicarbonates, which can be utilized as a carbon source for the microalgae production. However, the drawback of this approach is that it needs large lands in regions with rich wind resource. And some scientists thought of utilizing the cell-free artificial photosystem or photosynthesis platform, which I find interesting, to eliminate the challenges of dealing with living cells. So this approach utilizes photosynthesis enzymes with a nanoscale photophosphorylation system engineered into a foam architecture using natural surfactant protein. And this protein directs the photo-derived chemical energy of carbon fixation and sugar synthesis. It was proven with 96% efficiencies. However, scaling up this approach to industrial scales might be challenging. And from our group, we are proposing the artificial leaf approach, which is a filed patent application developed by our team leader, Dr. Ameerah with his colleague, Professor Richard Sayer, and their group back in Los Alamos. So this artificial leaf-like material can enhance CO2 utilization in the microalgae ponds from a range of 15 to 30% up to over 90%. It also could reduce the contamination and facilitate an economic product harvesting. It is basically a microphotobiorreactor made of biocompatible, reversible, and mesoporous hydrogel beads, as you can see here in this scheme here, this round structure. And so it encapsulates all the components needed for photosynthesis, namely the nanomaterials designed to overcome the challenges affecting the growth efficiency in microalgae ponds. For example, the quantum dots, the CO2 bubbles, and then of course the microalgae culture. As part of the EP's green energy program, as I mentioned earlier, this system taps into the existing algal cultivation to directly capture CO2 and convert it into high-value commodities for various industrial sectors, including our main focus, the upstream oil and gas applications, such as I mentioned, the materials for the oil-based mud, the hydrofracking fluids, and enhanced oil recovery agents. Another promising solution that was recently proposed by our team is called the CO2 Nano Bubbles for upstream oil field materials. So this system also supports our collaboration with EP to enhance CO2 utilization in algal cultivation ponds. So in these, as these ponds are open to atmosphere, The current delivery method of CO2 is through purging it into these ponds. However, the drawback of this method is that large CO2 bubbles are quickly rising to the surface and back to the atmosphere, leaving a short window of time for the algal cells to consume enough CO2. And that is why the current utilization efficiency of CO2 in algal ponds is less than 40%. So if we deliver the CO2 to the algal pond in the form of CO2 nano bubbles, they will remain in the pond for a longer time, long enough for the algal cells to consume enough CO2. Not only this, the rate of algal growth and lipid synthesis increases and they can be harvested faster. The extracted lipids then can be converted to biocrude, which can be utilized in generating the previously mentioned materials, such as the oil-based mud. Also, we can make some of our previously developed and tested reservoir nano-agents, such as the nanosurfactants. So in conclusion, to overcome the global greenhouse gas emissions, we need numerous combined solutions in order to address the global climate change, as fossil fuels will continue to play a very important role in supplying the energy to the world for decades to come. Oil and gas companies such as Saudi Aramco have great dedication and investment in new and innovative technologies that will support sustainability. And finally, when it comes to advanced materials, the artificial leaf and CO2 nanobubbles are just two examples of those new and promising approaches that not only benefit algal cultivation, it also simultaneously supports global energy demands and other industrial applications. Well, that's it from my side. Thank you all for listening, and I'm happy to answer your questions.